Cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it myself too.
Did you ever catch up with Maureen?
No, not yet.
Not
No,
yet.
I've communicated. She said we were going to arrange to connect after she connected with you guys again.
Yeah. We connected. We connected a few days ago, but I know
Oh.
she's got a really busy schedule. All right. So I'm looking at. Let's see. Let me go in here. We'll roll the show out in just a second. Appreciate everybody's patience. It's going to be a great show. I'm glad it's the last one of the day because I'll have to go integrate after talking to Franco. Oh, man. Woo. Energy. Good energy. All right, let's see here. All right, it's up on the page. I'm going to just share it out, let people have a little time to come in. How you been doing? How's Kimberly?
She's doing pretty good. Yes.
Keeping you in line?
Yes, she does. Absolutely. Keeps me grounded that I still have some human experience and not be out in the air, floating around somewhere.
Yeah.
So she's actually been very good for that.
Yeah, I went through that in a different way. When I started out 8 years ago, and I met Morgan four years ago. So she'd tell me, "You're shadowed. You're out of alignment." I'm like, "How can I be shadowed and out of alignment? I got all this stuff coming in." She'd say, "It doesn't matter till you embody it." I told you that story. It took me 2 years to figure out what the hell that meant.
Right.
Yeah, I had no idea. Because, most of this stuff, people can tell you whatever they want to tell you, but until you do it for yourself, and you have to find your own way to that point, I mean, it's like somebody speaking a foreign language.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's a lot of pretty sayings and cliches and do this and don't and do that and guidelines, but when it gets down to it, as I like to say, Ascension's a very personal journey. Just don't take anything personal.
So true. So true.
So we got 21 people in the house. We're going to roll this out. Oh man. Let me just say some hellos real quick before my phone dies. All right. Some new names. Lisa Manzintas. And Heriska Piotrowska. She says, "Hello, Franco." Kathy Waldowski, Lynn Marie, Valerie Peterman, Michael and Norma Herbert Hendrick. Been big supporters for a long time. The kind of people that kept me going when I didn't want to keep going with their comments and messages. Kathy Waldowski, Susan Lanuette, Lynn Marie, Julie Severn, Kelly Bird, and Julie, I will get to you. There's probably 100 people that are trying to come on, and I'm not ignoring you. I just want to let you know we're gonna get to everybody as quick as we can. Kelly Bird, Sasha Grace, be seeing you soon. I do have my cell phone plugged in, but it's not working too well. Terry Willette, beautiful show yesterday. She says, "Wonderful, loved all. Thank you, Franco, for last Saturday's class. It was an amazing remembering. Really wanted to make it. In fact, that was the day we talked to Maureen. And there was just too much shift flying in the air. We couldn't do it. We wanted to at least make an appearance.
Right.
Appreciate the invite. Cat, Ground to Fly, good day from down under. Yvonne down in Tasmania. Constance Zuvalos, Kim Atkins. Thank you, Kim, for your continued love and support and contributions. And everybody else, because that's what keeps us going, even though it's by the seat of our pants. Absolute reverence for everybody for being a part of this, because we couldn't do it without you. Sherry Raymond, Chaz Hargreaves, Karen Isis. Hello, Thailand. And as soon as I can get my legalities worked out and I can leave the country that everybody else wants to come into, I just want to get out of here. I'll come visit you. We'll come visit you over there. Kim Atkins took the class too. She said she loved it. We'll talk a little bit about what Franco does during the show. Rita Baumgartner, good to see you. All right. So let me put that up over here and I'll just position it so I can see the comments. Make sure it's charging. Okay. All right, Franco, what's happening? What's going on? For those of you who don't know, Franco's been in this game, for lack of a better word, for a long, long time. I knew I had seen him somewhere. We got to talking, Morgan and I and Franco and Kimberly had a private conversation a couple of weeks ago after the second show, I think.
Yes,
And,
the next day.
yeah, the next day. And he mentioned collective evolution and his relation in more ways than one, the collective evolution. And collective evolution, like spirit science, was one of the forerunner venues that started talking about ascension early. And I remember watching, I want to say 7, 8 years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago, Franco in some of these productions that Collective Evolution put out. So I went back to YouTube and I'm like, Morgan, look at this. Look at Franco 9 years ago. At least that was 9 years ago. I look at my stuff from 2 years ago. I'm like, where did all that, of course it's wet now, but where did all that black hair go? But yeah, so you've been a real pioneer and in what we call ascension. And that's not anything out of the ordinary, but for the fact that you are a master. So many of the leaders in this, in front of the camera and behind the scenes have been these powerful divine feminines who've been receiving this infinite intelligence communion for so long. Now many of them are stepping out, and we're very honored to support that here at Soulspeaks. But you were kind of an exception. You know, a very balanced masculine energy coming out early on, and it really fascinated me to watch. I watched not the whole thing, but I watched parts of 3 different shows that you did, and I have to say they were dated probably what 7, 8, 9 years ago. And what you were talking about was definitely, I'm not going to say it was falling on deaf ears, but definitely had a little bit ahead of everybody. I think people are ready for that now. So that's why I love talking to you, because it's such a natural thing for me, because I do get you. So, you know, on behalf of everybody, I just want to say thank you, because, you know, coming in to the game 8 years ago, there wasn't a lot of men, but you were way ahead of me. And not that I even have anywhere the experiential that you do. But yeah, there's a couple of things that I thought we'd bring up and talk about and get your perspective.
Sure.
But
Absolutely.
before we do that, I mean, on behalf of everybody, thanks for coming on and sharing space with us and honoring us with your presence. And if there's anything you'd like to open up with, I'm going to hand the hot potato over to you.
Well, thank you again to have me on again. It's an absolute pleasure to do so. And it's always great to connect with someone that understands it and you can communicate with. But what's equally best is the fact that there's an audience that actually is open. And you're so correct, because when I started sharing this, well, it goes back because I started to become more public in 2003.
Wow.
But at that time, you know, again, I had to have small groups that you can go a little further with, and even that was a little heavy. Then later on, I did notice, but I had to water it down in a way, because it, you know, not only went over other people's heads, but they would shut down because it was just like too much overload in a sense because of where people were. So to see the difference now and to see how people are so ready, like some people say to me, well, I don't see that much change. And I go, well, if you've been observing since I have been observing, and even when I started to, because I mean, I was doing sessions at, 35 years ago, but, the public stuff wasn't until about 15 or, so I guess it's 20 years when I really started, but a little bit more. I said, where people are at this point is so huge. And the other thing too, is that most of the workshops and anything that I was doing was mainly all women. It was so rare to see a man in one of my workshops. It seemed like most of the time I was the only guy up there, and even sessions and so forth when people were coming in. But now to look at it, there's way more. It's still a little less than the amount of women. Some workshops are balanced, some workshops are whatever. So you could see how even the men are catching on and they're moving forward. So it's been so refreshing to see that, and I can actually go further now. I don't feel that my soul is actually holding back. It does sometimes, depending on, because I get excited because I have access to a lot of stuff, and I'm looking, I go, oh, good, people are ready to hear this. My soul's going, no, not yet, because they're gonna shut down this and that. And I go, okay, fine. And then sometime later, could be a few months later, a year later, or whatever, and then it opens up to it, and I go, great, I guess they're ready now.
Yeah.
So it's great to see that, but I also see a tremendous amount of movement. There's been a big shift at the end of May. There's sort of a lightening up. So there's that less of a pull to go back into, it's like, for example, it's like you're trying to move forward and there's this big bungee cord attached to you at this point in time. Now that bungee cord is actually almost like it's released, and you just think it's like the elephant thinking that the cord is still attached there, right? So the only thing that's really holding us back, it's not really our surroundings and the energies that are polarized for us. What's holding us back at this point in time? And when I say that loosely, because really, is it holding us back or not? It's really us and our stories, programs, and belief systems that we've taken on, and what we believe that is the way it needs to be, because we've been conditioned that way. So that's the only thing that people are running into now. And even though people have felt that sometimes things are so overwhelming and they want to just leave the planet, it's like, get me out of here, beam me up, Scotty, I want to check out whatever, in essence, there's still a very powerful interest to see where this goes. Yeah. And a lot of people are feeling it. I don't know how many are on the show that are feeling, but I'm sure the majority, to some degree or another, are feeling that we're making the most amount of progress, and that right now we are actually more actively shaping not only our personal reality, but our collective reality.
Yeah, and I just want to second that. I want to validate what you're saying, because we toyed with, I've had this went back, I don't know, it actually went back probably a year and a half ago when we started this format, and I would do shows with 2 or 3 people on the panel. But I think it was a couple of months ago, I had a couple of people not show up. So impromptu, I did what I called an open mic. And I just jumped on and said, hey, who wants to come on? Let's talk about real-time issues. Mm-hmm. So the last couple of days, and one day last week, but the last couple of days, I did that. I planned one, the morning, and I said, come on at noon and let's see what we can dig up. We had really some great shows. And to your point, or at least let me rephrase that. I invite you to talk about anything you want to talk about. Because one thing I learned from these last 2 days of these open mics with these 4, 5, 6 people per episode, young, old, masculine, feminine, across the board, we were talking about some things such as inner Earth, galactic wars, issues and things that you might see on the alternative news talked in a more sensationalistic manner. But these were talked about from personal, dimensional, and interdimensional experiences and recollection and memories, which holds a lot more weight to me than, and I'm not taking anything away from Gaia TV or Corey Good or David Icke, but this is the 99.99%. This is the vast majority. And these stories that were being shared had a congruence and a symmetry. And so I think your frequency, I believe your frequency, your vibration, your intel, your level of connection to infinite intelligence is very pure. It's not sullied. It hasn't been out there. Let's face it. If you took the level of information you had and many other people and put it out and really publicized it, you're going to be bombarded, because the higher the soul goes, the higher the ego goes, and we're all human. The human is the hero. So I would encourage you, based on these last 2 days, to speak about whatever you want to speak about, because I do believe that the vortex that I call Soulology, this portal, this addition of additional frequencies being added to an ever-expanding vibration, which is a mirror of the universe, is what it's all about. And in this moment, in the spontaneous, it's where we receive our highest activations, channelings, and transmissions. So please don't hold back.
Okay, well, thank you for providing that. And as you've done a great job to make that possible at this point, and kind of created an environment where the people that are open to that or even going to that level are the people that are drawn to be on your show, on your broadcast. So in essence, that's due to the efforts of you and Morgan and all the participants at this time. So that's fantastic, and that's great. So thank you for allowing that to be available at this point in time. So anyways, you said you wanted to address some things, or I can go off
Well,
on a tangent, because there's so much, you
can
the
go
thing
off.
that
You can go off. I see everything as an integration of polarities, an integration, non-physical, physical, masculine, feminine, the whole 9 yards. I know because I am married to a galactic being. So I kind of look at you the same way. You know, we had a very special moment, three of us, when we spoke privately. And I understand the unspoken, the nonverbal. I understand it. Hanging around Morgan for 4 years, which reawakened what I already had in myself, you know.
Mhm.
But I also understand through the work that I do the power of the human experience, the power of the experiential, the power of saying, you know, what the F happened to you when the solstice came? You know, it hung, you know, it handed me my ass on a platter, you know, whatever the case is. But one of the things that I see popping up, and it gets lost and it gets muddied in this whole masculine, feminine kind of thing, you know? And I sat here and watched from this chair, and I thought, you know what? I'm seeing wounded masculine women, feminine incarnations, and I'm seeing feminine, wounded, and masculine. And it's like, what's going on here? Trying to simplify everything. We're all souls. But one of the things that I see popping up, or that we're trying to, as I look at it, to detach from or release, is competition, comparison. You know, I mean, what is that? How do we detach from that? Is that a program? What can you offer us? I don't know. I'm just giving you the information, and I'm hoping with my fingers crossed, you can give us some type of epiphany or revelation, or at least head us in the right trajectory.
Yeah, well, okay. We'll start off with the competition part. I mean, that is definitely a program. That program is heavily stimulated within this inverted matrix that we have. So in essence, really, when we're looking at it, it's not about who's better than someone else, or that we need to compete. This whole idea, and even the projection of sports and so forth, of competition, really the true design is that we just see how much more we can, I wouldn't say push, but to achieve within ourselves. And it's not about win or lose, or who's better than the other, because in our true operating system, we see that we are all in it together. So in essence, how can we work together and individually to achieve other levels of expressions and experiences, and not one is better than the other? So the whole idea of competition has been, in a sense, of creating more separation and more conflict, and the fact of creating more distraction. And that's what it's all about. Because when you step out of that operating system, you see that you may induce, assist each other to reach new levels or new heights of beingness. But we came here not ever to compete. We came here to be the fullest and most grandest aspects of who we are. And that's not stagnant in any way. We're always accelerating. We're always advancing. We're always upgrading ourselves. We never came here with one mission. We never came here with a final goal to achieve. We came with a list that's always altering. It's either adding things or subtracting things, depending on what is happening with all other aspects of ourselves. So when you really look at it, we came here to be the best essence of who we are, but that never stops. Because if you look at our operating system, if you look at our true nature, even as source is not stagnant in any way, shape, or form. One of the examples is, why create billions and billions of playgrounds and versions of selves and alternate aspects of these playgrounds? Why take on form when there is no form? when there is just a creation of illusionary form. It is because let me see what I can create. Let me see what I can experience. There is no right, no wrong, good, no bad, but I'm going to now do this. And this is what we are. That is our very essence within ourselves. So when we come here to play, it's about, all right, let me embrace this experience. Let me see what new heights I can get into, what playfulness I can get, what creativity, how much of my highest aspect of who I am as source can I plug into this without losing the full parameter of what it means to experience ourselves in a human physical form, utilizing the collective, what we call the human entity collective, and then also to advance every part of it. So even the idea of feminine and masculine is a plug-in. It's not even real, okay? Because even the natural design of the human physicality does not have a reference of a masculine or feminine energy. It basically has a masculine and feminine programmed physicality that has certain emphasis on certain components of its operating system to play a specific role. So in essence, we are basically both and none.
Yeah.
If you really look at it. So I know we're bringing in this idea that we have feminine coming in to balance our masculine. What is that separation of energies are all just coming together to balance, so that when we're playing the role, we're not channeling one energy or another. We're just in a physicality. Because if you look at a source essence, if you look at the soul, it has no genders, never has, never will.
Yeah.
Okay. The creation has no gender. However, the physicalities have been plugged in with genders, but those are just plugins for having different role playing on the playground. You were going to say something.
Well, no, I love this. I love this conversation because, again, it's that ground level, grassroots. To me, that's where the gold is. Otherwise, why are we here?
Mm-hmm.
There seems to be a significance. Now, it's not perfect across the board, but for the most part, in the physical gender. I'm a man for a reason. Morgan's a woman for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
There seems to be something about that, and I realize and I understand, I think everybody does, the soul is genderless. But there seems to be something about whatever we're doing here, and I'm not trying to say I'm right, I'm just trying to get some perspective from you, that has to do with what we incarnated as. Like in the spirit of expanding the trajectory of infinite knowledge, of infinite experience, love, and wisdom.
Absolutely. So what's happening here, so we understand? The advanced souls, or the souls that actually have enough access at this point in time, that are coming in and taking on gender roles, it is to neutralize the crystallization and the impact of the genders that have been propagated for so long and the differences between it. Okay, so yes, the physicality holds a slightly different energy, and it's a necessity to keep it that way, because that's how you duplicate and also hold a certain energy, because they're channeling. But when I'm saying channeling, not channeling what people talk about channeling, we're talking source essence channeling through us. So when we're looking at the experience, the reason you take on either a masculine physicality or a feminine physicality is because, and again, it's not across the board the same, because in essence, depending on where on the world you're incarnating, what nationality, culture, upbringing, it varies. So masculine is very different in whatever culture that you're in, okay? And the role playing and whatever is taken on is different. So, but is any of it natural? No. Those are just traits that are picked up and utilized. But the real reason they're utilized now, even with the advanced souls coming in, is that so that we can transmute or transform and upgrade what we call the human experience, but upgrade the human male gender and the female gender, and remove a lot of the separational categorizations that have occurred, because that actually is used to keep people in conflict.
Yeah.
Keep people in separate. Because you look at it, when you pay attention, men and female, like they're drawn to each other, they have a purpose, they play with each other, but they also choose not to understand each other, to engage in each other. Like when you're getting into, like yourself and Morgan and others that have, have that very unique union and level of understanding, then the role playing of male and female becomes minimized, as you can see. And it's more of a deeper understanding of one versus the other, or basically one and each other, right? So in essence, that's kind of the melting that's going on, the merging of that nature, so that we don't have the same separation. Just because you're in a different physicality, it doesn't mean that we're gender driven any longer. So in essence, at that point in time, you're able to, no matter what, be a master in whatever experience that you choose, and you can elevate any part of the experience, and it doesn't matter what gender you're in. And then there's not that separation that has been propagated for so long, right? So I know some people feel this can get offensive in a sense, saying, well, wait a minute, there's the divine masculine, the divine feminine. Well, everything is divine in a sense, because we're all divine, right? And is there a divine masculine and feminine? In essence, really not one is different than the other. It's just a collective energy that has been established over the years, which is basically watering down. It doesn't mean that you're not going to play the feminine role. You're not going to be labeled that this is who you are with all these rules. The rules kind of become very flexible, and they actually dissolve as they are no longer required. So in essence, it's like a woman is no longer restricted to be able to play an equal role in any part that it chooses to do so, just because it's in a certain physicality. And the same with the male. So all of a sudden, the man is not weak for having emotions, is not weak. And when I say emotions, a man's okay to have a tough, masculine fight or flight emotion, and have anger or whatever it is, and there's okay with that. But an emotion of understanding, an emotion of gentleness and so forth, in many, many, many cultures, that is shown as weakness. Okay, but in fact, it's power.
Yeah, I get that. And so what you're saying is that because this is such a physical experience, and source is transmuting illusion, I guess is the way I would put it. Expanding the equation of what is, what is the I am that. We actually are doing this in the embodiment of physicality. And that's a powerful, powerful thing. We think of this human experience as a very dense, heavy vibration that's very small, but in the paradoxical teachings of the universe, this is actually a huge expanse that maybe no one's ever tread on before. And the other thing I'll say is, comically, is that I love the point you make about the masculinity and femininity. Is 2 nights ago, Morgan turned into a dragon, and we had an intimate, sacred sexual vibrational experience, which she was somewhat masculine and I was somewhat feminine. So I have no problem with it. But the whole point is, energetically speaking, all jokes aside, there was wisdom, there was knowledge, there was data, there was code, downloads and transmissions coming through there that were further balancing not only the individual, but the two individuals coming together as one. And how can you get to oneness if you don't first start with two? You got one, you got a two, and then whatever the math is after that, I don't know. But you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. So, the thing about this whole oneness, it's really an understanding that we are all that very essence, having a multitude of different experiences. And the fact of saying, looking at another aspect of yourself or another human, like I'm looking at you and I look at anybody else that we encounter, and 8 billion people close to that. And that's only on this playground. We see that they're all just other aspects of ourselves having different experiences to create variety. And every everyone is playing a specific role to advance that whole, right? So it's in that way. So in essence, what we've been doing so long is the fact that we see the oneness and break it up and create that separation and continue to stimulate that separation.
Yeah.
So this is that of the feminine and masculine was the same thing, because if you look at it, they're on this planet and other planets at this point in time, the masculine has led, the feminine has led, and even the masculine at one point was more of the passive and the feminine were more empowered and vice versa. So it's been played on different roles. It's not like, okay, well, the feminine is disadvantaged because, the masculine is ruling. No, it's all had equal turns. Now it's not about switching sides again. It's where all of it works together. The masculine and the feminine come together and work together to create an environment that nourishes both. It's not like the masculine is trying to dictate or the feminine is dictating, because even when I saw that happening, as I look back in those times where they're switched, was there less war? Was there more peace and so forth? You'd be surprised it was not.
No.
In essence, in some ways, in some turn of events, there was even more violence at certain times when the feminine was dealing with it. Not to say one's better than the other, because it's not. It was just to show that we can't hold on to the perception of what it is right now, because that's just another version of another perception, another version of saying, let's try this out. Let's see what is going on. And now it's like, okay, we tried all of that. Now we want to go back to our natural state where we see that there is no division. There's a collaboration, there's a cooperation, there's a seeing of equality and seeing a gifting from one another, saying, well, this is what I have to offer from my experience from a feminine physicality and all that I experience in a feminine physicality. And the same thing as a man. So it's like, this is your job and that's my job and this is right and that's wrong. You can dress this way, I can't, and whatever. None of that comes into play, right? So in essence, it's a taking down and taking apart all of those parts, because you know something? There's no right or wrong. So in essence, whatever we've done as experience of role-playing and going back and forth, we see that in essence, it was a learning, fertile playground.
It was a method of the universal breath expanding. That's it. I mean, the Big Bang to me is not the Big Bang, the scientific part of it. It's what are we all doing here? We're growing, we're expanding, and these are ingenious, methods and aspects and tactics and strategies of how to do that. And I can verify that too on a comical note, because I remember Lionsgate 2016 being visited by the Amazons, and these two 8-foot tall Nubian feminists walked in and said, let me show you what we did over here. And I was like, whoa. Thank God I wasn't there. Let me ask you this. From a human hybrid soul perspective, why are we conscious? 99.99% of our consciousness is right here. When we know at this point, we've got all this multidimensionality, how could something so small be so conscious? What's going on with that? What is the human hybrid soul?
Human hybrid soul, you said?
Yeah, well, that's just my phrase for it. But what is the human species? What is the human hybrid soul? I consider it to be a species that's been planted by universal family, the mutt of the universe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't recall if we may have talked about this, but I'll go through it quickly again. Every playground, including Earth, gets retooled every so often when, it's like a video game, we're going to redesign it because it's time to handle the more advanced playing or the new advanced way of experiencing things. So it gets retooled. So these human physicalities, and this is one of the series. This is the latest series, okay? Because 15,000 years ago, it was recreated. So it took genetic codes, it took in from DNA from various species. So we're made up of 12 different species made into one hybrid, which now we call the human physicality and the human channel of energy. So it's really a very elaborate holographic projection. So when the planet gets reseeded, that's what we call it, in the sense of, again, the only reason I can say these things is because my soul has shared some of this stuff, because in essence, my soul was involved in the re-engineering of planet Earth. It was one of the main engineers with a group of engineers. And I'm not talking about as a human engineer. We were in a different form, or the souls were in a different form, that were very capable of creating and retooling planets, and also creating new species. So in essence, it wanted to create a species that had many, many different inputs of expressions and experiences, and also its capabilities. This is why some people really relate with different species. Now, it's not only because the soul has had many lives there, because the part within them that is active is that particular DNA, which is a transmitter receiver to that race that is most intentionally transmitting. So you're basically feels like home when you meet them, because in essence, you have the very essence of their core creation within them, right? Yeah. And that you're expressing it and you're experiencing it. So in essence, it's realistically, this is how it was designed, is that when the human physicalities were designed, this human, or what we call hybrid body was designed, it actually was designed so that when it met with the various species that it's part of its makeup, it would be recognized as his brother or his sister. Yes.
Wow. So let me put that into the ground level experience, experiential. So is that the same thing as saying, and I have to use Morgan as an example because that's the only thing I know. It's personal, right? So when we integrate with these aspects, be they galactic, divine essences, dragons, whatever they may be, and they come into our field, this is what's happening? Is this what's happening? I mean, we're reacquainting ourselves with who we are and what we're a part of?
Yes, one facet, one channel, one essence of complete having their genetic makeup. And so they show up because, in essence, they want to share something with you, and you have the capacity to be able to understand and to actually integrate some of the things that they share, because it is part of their makeup is in you, in all of us, because pretty well everybody has 12 DNA strands, and they're double helixes, so they basically have two versions of each of the species. Okay. Well, now some of us have come on and they modified. Like my physicality was modified before it was incarnated, before it was implanted in my mother, and it added 2 extra DNA strands in there with double helixes too. So it actually added 2 other species, but these other 2 species were from a whole different universe. Right. Why? Because then the soul that was coming in from a different universe would be able to stay in touch with where it's coming from. Okay. That was the only reason, nothing more. So and there are others. It's not unique. I mean, there's not a lot, but there are others.
So it's like you have a cell phone and you're from the 808 area code and you move to the other side of the world. You keep your phone and you're still connected to the 808 area code, but yes. You also, okay, I got you.
Now, the thing I'm going to add to that is that people that have a specific connection with a specific race of beings, extraterrestrial, whatever you want to call it, they basically have kept that channel more open so that they can share amongst each other the information of their experiences on their planet and even when they're traveling, and the experience of the human. So it's feeding back. So it's like you having 12 channels on your receiver, and they're all accessible and they're all slightly on, but you have one that is more accurate, more tuned. So you're actually hearing that channel very more clearly. So that's basically what happens. Now, what happens because of that, at times you have visitations where, because that channel is there, they can actually project into your reality to make itself more present so that you have a more holistic engagement and interaction. And the coding and anything that they may share with you energetically and consciously, or even a level of awareness at that point in time, is better received.
So
okay?
ultimately, it's a channel that was created by you so that you would receive this message at the opportune time.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
So again, from the ground level, boots on the ground perspective, is there a difference between a movie we're watching from the global stage, the external, whatever you want to call it, to Atlantis, to Lemuria, to Sirius, to galactic wars? I mean, isn't that all the same frequency? Isn't that all just the same thing? An external, book, projection, informational system, data channel, whatever. I mean, is it all the same? Are the galactic wars that so many people remember important? Atlantis, Lemuria, what happened to me a week ago or 10 years ago or whatever the case is?
No. And I'm glad you brought that up, because there's so much emphasis on that. Even when we're looking at, certain archives, or we're looking at, the Akashic records and all of that stuff, it's really not about what happened, is what it's been gained from that, and not a perceptional based gain. It's more of, okay, that was a great experience. We had whatever. What did we gain from it? We saw the polarity. We experienced certain parts of it. We're not re-bringing back any of that in, okay? And we're not using that as a reference point, because as much as we like to see that was even something better, stronger, or weaker, or poorer, or lower state, those are labels. Because in essence, right now, specifically right now, and a lot of that's changed, is the fact that as a reference point of the past is no longer necessary, because we're not recreating anything of the past. And it doesn't matter if it's what's happened on planet Earth, or what's happened in the galaxies, or what happened anywhere on any planet at this point in time. For all of us to create new, and that is the emphasis right now, is to really just be present with the level of consciousness we have, and utilizing the capacities that we have right now to create everything new. And this is replicated right now in our own personal experience. What is the big thing that's happening right now?
So in essence, anything that's happened beyond this moment when I make this statement is the Akashic. Whether it's earthbound, whether it's galaxy, solar system, alternate universe, whatever, past life, alternate, parallel, future, whatever. That's Akashic. Mm-hmm. So it's information given to us, provided to us, if we're connected or if we're not, or whatever the case is, as we go forth. It's knowledge. It's knowledge. So essentially it's all the same thing, which was my question. It's all the same thing.
Yes. And you look at what's happening to people right now personally. They're going through the same process. The biggest thing that's happening right now for people is a separation from the reference, connection, the energies of our past.
Yeah.
Whoever you were, and it doesn't matter if you're on another planet or this planet, whoever you've been throughout every moment leading up to this moment was just experiences that require no attachments to, no reliving, no focusing, because you have to understand, you take something that happened a year ago. You have to ask your question, what state of consciousness were you in?
Yeah.
What was the purpose of creating that
Wow.
experience at that time?
Wow.
What connections, what agreements, what contracts did I have? What was the energy of the planet? What was my role in all of that? You could see that if you listed it all out, it was all purposeful for then. But when you look at it right now, where I am right now, and I'm talking about everybody, where you are right now,
Gotcha. Yeah.
where does that fit in?
So there's no difference between what happened to me 8 years ago, traumas, family dramatic experiences, whatever, bullshit, whatever you want to call it. There's no difference between that and I had an Atlantean life or a Lemurian life or a Syrian life. There's no difference. It's just data, information, and code. So I can be as stuck on the traumas of this incarnation as I can be on the, oh my God, I was a Syrian king or such and such light being. There is no difference. I've got to let all of that go if I want to maximize the potential of my forward motion, my spiritual inertia.
Yeah. Let me give you a simple example here. This brings it right down to earth. If somebody's an actor, okay, and he plays a role or she plays a role in a movie, once the movie's done, they walk away from it, okay, playing the part.
Yeah.
Now, if they go play another movie, they can't bring that character along again because, in essence, that movie was that movie. This movie is completely new. So you now have to go into character for this new movie. And it's the same thing with us. Whatever you played, because everything is a role. And this is what I want to make very important to people. Those were roles, as this is a role. But what you're doing now is meant for now. This is what you are best at right now. And everything that you're receiving, everything that you feel urged to do is being created for the now, for this version of you. This is the thing, it's this version of you. And look at one other thing I can say, Todd. The moment your version upgrades, the versions of all the people in your life upgrades too. Why? Because you're basically, look at it. You take, say, your mother. I'm just giving you an example. Okay, someone's mother, somebody's father, somebody's brother, sister, whatever. You're looking at a projection that has many, many versions of. Because you're in a certain vibration, you're only seeing one version of your brother, your mother, your father. The moment your consciousness expands, your frequency changes, your viewpoint changes, the version that you see of those playmates is a different version. All of a sudden, wow, they're acting this different. They look almost different, but they still have the same outlet. But wow, what happened to my parents that I used to know? What happens is you changed. Yeah. You're now tuning into another version of them, and you're looking at another version of the planet. Look at the examples in your life. No, when you're stuck in drama, when you're stuck at, oh, look at the world sucks, and you're looking at all the negative stuff, what do you see of a lot? Because you're tuning into that frequency. You're looking at only that version of the world when there's so many other versions. But when you have a shift, especially when you go into an altered state or a higher state and you're feeling bliss, it doesn't matter if there's chaos around you. You barely even see it. You only see the beauty. You only see nature. You see that communication, because that's really what's happening. So for us to be looking back at any of the past and romanticizing it and bringing it into our life, or even the drama, the stories that we've applied to it at that point, really taints our experience of this moment. And this is one of the things that the ego is very good at. The artificial intelligence is always digging into the archives of your subconscious mind, is always looking at the past to find what will take you down, what will make you feel smaller, what will make you feel, because look at it this way, when the ego is active, It's going to take whatever happened in your past life, or in this life, I mean, in your past, and make it in a way that it looks like, wow, okay, I'm damaged goods because this happened to me, or this and that. And then what happens is it projects it into the future, and then it starts to create accordingly. I've worked with people for 35 years, and I've worked with thousands of people, and I've done regressions. I don't know how many regressions I've done. Many, 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 many. It's close to the thousands. I'm telling you, when we go back to their life, we're not even talking about a past life from your human entity or a past life from your soul. I'm talking about their life as a child, okay? Or earlier in their lifetime, maybe not as a child, maybe as an adolescent, or maybe as a teenager, or whatever. And we go look at the same trauma or the same labeled trauma, and we start looking at that from a different viewpoint, bringing in the consciousness they have now, and just look at it from that point. Every time they're actually shocked after they go through the shock of, you know, feeling the emotions that was triggered in there. Then they're looking at it and go, wow, it doesn't look like the way I've perceived. Why? Because you were looking through a different set of eyes in a different state. And what happens, that thing that they put so much power into it, it loses its whole form, and it creates a ripple effect throughout their timeline of this current time. And it's like, wow, I feel lighter. I don't feel damaged anymore. What happened? Well, you just saw.
It reminds me of in my old life in the corporate world, when I did a lot of business planning, performance, projections, and that type of thing. So most of them would start with how many leads can you generate? How much interest can you generate? How many people can you give a presentation in front of? And, you know, and from there, extrapolate the number to forecast some type of abundance, basically. So I went the other way. I said, okay, if this is the level of abundance I want, let me back into it, right? So I think about what you're saying. I think, okay, if I wanted the best version of my mother and my father and my children and my brother and my sister and my partner and so on, so on, so on, I would back into it. I would say, let me look at that element or those elements and then back into it. And what Todd Medina does that produce versus, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I love the way you explain that because, you know, it's funny because I think I've said this to you before, but I remember when I would shift and I would get on the phone or camera with Morgan, I'd say, wow, you look different. You're looking so different. And after 6 months or so, she let me in on the secret and said, it ain't me, it's you, which is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. For you to back engineer the way you want to see your parents, your brothers, your sisters, whoever is in your life, you would have to change yourself. So in essence, you now are tuning into a different state of frequency to the point where your eyes are seeing that version. But for you to see that version, you have to become that version that can see that version. So in actual fact, you're upgrading just to be able to see that highest version of your playmates in your life. And that's the thing. And it's exactly what you said, that Morgan has said. It's just you. Your version is upgrading. Your version is changing. So you're going to see different versions of all your playmates and other engagements around you.
Yeah. I don't want to get caught up in the sensational, and I certainly don't want to promote any type of separation, superiority, inferiority. Oh, he's got this, she's got that. I don't. But now that we've made the distinction of what's going on with your health, what's happening, what are we actually experiencing in the light that we're all unique but equal souls, unique but equal souls. So we all have, like in the cosmic infinite jigsaw puzzle, a different piece. And without that piece, the universe is not whole. That's the qualifying disclaimer. In terms of your role, this information that you've been receiving for so long, you described it on the first show in particular, nobody wants to see that. From that perspective, what's going on? I don't mean to say, Franco, who are you? But what's going on here? What was planned? What's happening? take out the emotion, take out the prejudices, take out the separation. What are we actually doing in I guess, a little bit more of a gut level kind of scenario rather than an esoteric platitude type of explanation? Not that you do that, but I'm just saying, what are we doing here? How did this happen in the literalcy of it? You know what I mean?
Are you talking about what we're doing here as a collective? Like
on Earth. What is Earth? What is the human species? What was the plan? Did it go wrong? I don't want to get into it. How do you know the things you know? Because I know you've been granted a lot, and that's your piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
But without getting sensationalistic, without creating separation and differentiation, just what is happening from another perspective, from your perspective here.
Well, what the thing is, there was a certain intent for planet Earth, okay, and for the human species. And the intent was to create a knowledge-based planet. It was like a major hub for the quadrant of galaxy that we're in. And it was supposed to be an interdimensional portal, in a sense, because this is one of the reasons there's so many species built in, so that they can come and visit, and it's like there is no resistance to various species coming in and so forth, right? That was the original design, and it maintained that design for the 5,000 years that it was intact. Then there was an experimental, how can I say it? There was a presentation from a group that said, listen, you've created this beautiful, amazing playground with these amazing beings, and all of them are amazing. It's not one's better than the other. But in essence, let's put it to the test. Let's see if we can invert everything, create the most intense state of separation, disconnect of who they are, even though you can't disconnect, but they can't access that consciousness, because the moment they enter the physicality, it's blocked, it's veiled. Let's call it that, because that's what the words that they use. It's veiled. So for them to come here, which was referred to the souls, for the souls to come here, each one would have the opportunity to go into that environment, to create or to experience itself in that environment, and be able to step out of that environment in a very much more powerful state because of it, because of the fact that it had a bigger challenge to come through. Okay. Sure. So when people think that we got messed around, it depends on the viewpoint. If you feel that you're the victim and that in some way, some other race came on the planet, it actually was two different races that came on the planet and messed everything up, then yeah, you're right about that, because that's how you want to see it. If you see it that a race that had come in and wanted to keep itself so hybrid and wanted to create other realities of more challenging, and it was presented, and the souls that were present in those physicalities at that time said, yeah, that sounds like a very interesting experience. Let's see how that goes. Then you can't see it as mucked up. You said, okay, we staged it differently. We now created a more challenging video game of experience.
Yeah.
When you see it at that perspective, you say, okay, wow. And look at it this way, Todd. We have, as souls, the freedom to take on form, to come on planet Earth, or there are millions of other planets to go play on. Many, 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 many different physicalities of different versions all over the place, okay? Why do we have close to 8 billion playmates, and it's been growing over a short period of time, wanting to come here? Do we have something to offer that is not offered somewhere else? Is it the most fertile, most challenging, and let me see what I can do? And that's really what's happening. Now, because it's been in that stage so long, and it is actually slowing down progress because the program was so elaborate and it was modified so many times that it's almost like we're getting there, we're not getting there, because we make progress, but there's so much against us that right now, and planet Earth was quarantined for a long, long time. Okay. Why? Because the only way to allow that experiment to go without getting any input from the outside, and when I mean outside, other aspects and other planets within us, in our solar system and galaxy and universe. So in essence, it's saying, well, not to mess around with it. That's quarantine it. That's not let their energy feed into us, and don't let our energy feed into them, to see what that experiment. And an experiment is not an experiment of saying, well, okay, whoever's there screwed up, poor on you for choosing planet Earth. Like, you're crazy. You could have gone somewhere else. No, it's like, wow, I'm in this adventure. Yeah. Okay. So, and I want to say one other thing, just to clarify things. There's not a single soul that I've ever connected with when they left the physicality, didn't matter how traumatic, how intense, how much they felt totally uncomfortable, totally suicidal, or wherever at this point in time, once leaving the body, or even as closed-minded as possible, once leaving the body has ever said, thank goodness I'm out of that place. I'm never going to do that again.
I want to go back.
They're looking at it and they say, wow, I really got lost in there. Yeah. Man, I want to give it another shot at this.
Well, it reminds me of course, there's a lot of talk about the Mother Goddess energy, the Divine Feminine rising, and what's been suppressed in all of us, or however you want to explain that. But it reminds me of the Kali goddess, the dark mother, the one that comes in and loves you so much, she's going to rip your heart out and show it to you and show you what the real truth is, right? So like this element that came in and said, let's raise the ante. You've created this paradise. You've created this prolific opportunity. As long as we're here and we're all eternal and divine, let's roll the dice and see what happens.
Exactly. And now the thing is, the main engineers, because I questioned my soul. I said, listen, did you know that this was happening here? And it said yes. And we did not interfere because we wanted to see what it could do. And so I said, oh, okay, well, that's great to know. But then at the same time, did you feel that somehow it would get lost? And it was exactly what you said. It says, how? What could get lost? If the playground gets muddy enough, we can go and retool it. No problem. We just upgrade it and replug it back in. No big deal. It's no thing. And the soul, it's eternal, like you said, and it's immortal. It's not in any way, shape, or form going to ever stop existing. It's just creating more opportunities to go play somewhere else or to come back here again. And I the thing is, it's exciting. So really, back to the question which you asked, what's really happening right now is that we've been in this particular situation, in this particular stream of experiences. It has become so far out of alignment or out of balance with all the other planets' evolution and all the other beings that we're connected with. So in essence, it's saying, okay, there's nothing wrong with it, but we're going to upgrade it. We're going to unplug all the unnecessary stuff anymore, because you know what? We've already got so much data, so many facets of this experience, of that level of polarity, that level of separation, that level of self-destruct and all that stuff, that we have, our Akashic records, our archives are so full of that. It's time we now say, okay, we don't need to keep this experiment going. So in essence, instead of going in like it's happened in the past and unplugging and just plugging something new, it's saying, no, what we're going to do is this is the next level of experiment. That is the human condition, the human experience that's there, the souls that are there right now, we're going to facilitate by removing and activating certain parts of it so that they're actually evolving with the planet, with the upgrade, and with everything else. So what's really happening? We're just upgrading the human experience and planet collectively.
You're increasing the potential, the magic, the healing, the alchemy of the universe. You're saying, hey, we started this thing. What do we got to lose?
Yes.
There's nothing to lose,
No, and the thing is, the outcome's going to be the outcome, and the outcome's going to be fine no matter what it is. But, look at all the stuff that's coming through, other people's energies or other beings' energies. what it's doing realistically. What are the channeling about? Okay. The question is, it's just reminding that there's more than this human experience, that it's reminding the energies that we already carry inside. So it's even triggering it. Sometimes it looks it's skewed, but it's only because the fact is like it's stimulating us and say, you know, this is just a playground. Yes, you're in this physical form right now, but there's more to you. And look, you know, other aspects of ourselves communicate with us to bring that into a perspective of what we're experiencing. It's just really a triggering of what we already are and remembering so that we can start utilizing it. That's all.
I think the only thing that I really, now that you've stimulated me, I've always had this problem with the Far Eastern religions, the Shakers, yogis, and all that. And that, believe me, they've taught me plenty. But it's that whole insensitivity to the human experience. Like, oh, well, you're nothing, you're everything. And it's just like really kind of like, I don't know, emotionless. I don't know. And that is that we have, the only thing the universe doesn't know is what we're about to do. And it's like, that's the only thing we got. Mm-hmm. Everything else we've already known. Everything else is the Akashic, like I was saying earlier. And I love what you bring up because to me, it marries the extreme of the physical and the non-physical. Yes, I was a Syrian commander on a starship, but I was also a shadowed human walking the streets for 2 years, raising hell and getting in trouble. Somewhere in the middle of that is this beautiful presence that is creation, that is the present moment. And that's all we have. Is there anything you can do to persuade me different?
In persuading of that, you know, the thing is, one thing I can say right now, you can be the Syrian master creator, whatever you were, and the person that's on the streets or whatever it is, from the source essence, from soul perspective, there is no difference. It's two different experiences, and both are equally powerful and equally beneficial to the creation and to the experiencing. Even the ones that play negative roles and positive roles, you know, it's all equal. This is the thing. So it's never looked upon like that. The moment you see that someone's saying one's better than the other, okay, then there is a perceptual that is program based that is being utilized to say that, because from a higher perspective of seeing the bigger picture, you can't say that, because in essence, we've all been different roles and there is no difference to any of it.
Which also lends to this thing that's kind of happened, this phenomenon that's happened toward the end of last year with the yogi, and you've been in this thing a long time, so you have a really unique perspective. This whole yogi guru, inferiority, superiority kind of thing, teacher, student kind of thing that's kind of washed away. And I'm not saying you were like that at all, because I know you too well. Because if you were, you would have been out there 35 years ago, very demonstrative. But what I'm saying is, it's like there's something's kind of happened. Something's happened where this level of self-empowerment has become such a strong energy that these things are just fading away, you know? And to me, that's a great sign.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is not about putting anybody on a pedestal or seeing one's better than the other or anything of that nature. We're all playing roles that we're reminding each other who we are, and for us to still be that unique aspect of ourselves to whatever role that we're playing. And our roles that we're playing is upgrading all the time. Our accessibility is upgrading every part of it. So in essence, that's all really what's really happening. One of the things I was taught right from the beginning from my own guide, before even coming here, was when you're down there, okay, it's very easy for this AI, artificial intelligence, or what we call ego, to kind of create the idea of superiority and what labeled as the guru ego.
Yeah.
Okay. So keep that always in check. And I remember that as soon as I arrived, I said, okay. And my conversation with my own ego was, you're not going to take over. Okay. No way. Right. So in essence, when people say, oh, you're fantastic, I always automatically balanced it and said, no, we are always fantastic. We're all fantastic. We're all playing different roles. I am no more gifted than you are. You're doing one role. I'm doing my role is only to trigger and to activate what you already know, to bring a remembrance, and that's it. I have a certain access, but I'm sharing that access not to make myself better, not to tell you how to live your life, but to get you to connect more with yourself. And I still only do that. It is not like as anything that I shared and always share is that we're all equal, we're all powerful, we're all beautiful beings, and the information is just to trigger your own knowing. And this is why people say, I resonate. What does that resonate about? It's resonate because you already know it inside and you're just stimulating it. It's like, oh yeah, well, it makes sense. Why? Because you already know it. You just haven't been able to access it for the longest time. So that's really what it's about.
Yeah. So at the human level, at the gut level, where we still have our primary consciousness, let me ask you, is this a good rule of the road? If I'm trying to fix you or fix something, let's keep it on human terms. If I'm trying to fix you, am I out of alignment?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I'm trying to fix you, there is a level of superiority.
Yes. And then there's an a balance, and then there an imbalance. Then it causes a reliance on one another, and then a disempowerment of the other. So in essence, when you're working with someone, you assist them to be able to assist themselves. In a sense, you're empowering them. And even when you're doing an energy transmission, you're just holding a specific energy so that they can line up with it and be able to do it themselves.
So you're basically like a weather vane. You've aligned to a certain point, whatever frequency you have, which is all you can give them because you haven't gone beyond that point. So you're aligning as a conduit, like a weather vane. And you're standing there holding space, inviting their higher self in, so to speak, with permission, because that's how the universe works. And that's how gateways, portals, skills, abilities are opened up to what we might call the client.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is too, with that, you never see anything broken that needs to be fixed. Someone is in a certain state of experiencing their life and a certain pattern. So you show them, or in this case, remind them to look at it, and you help them look at the pattern to find out if it still serves them, and then to assist them to kind of make the adjustments themselves accordingly. You work with them on that because they can become empowered. Like I can hear people's souls. I can communicate with people's soul, no problem. But anybody that has sessions with me, what are we doing? We do it together because I want them to tune into it so that they learn how to do it. I don't want them to depend on me. I want them to be self-reliant, because the last thing I want to do is disempower. I want to assist people to empower themselves. And that's the way we all become empowered. And when somebody gets to that point, they just assist other people to self-empower, because in essence, we're not here, come in with as a broken being that has to be repaired, or that our circumstances or experiences was so bad that, in some way that we're now damaged goods. When somebody says we're damaged goods, I say, no, you're not. There is no damaged goods. You're having a certain experience that somehow you've labeled, but it's just intense for you and you're labeling it that, but there's nothing damaged to it. Look at what you have created. Look at what state you're in. Fantastic. Celebrate where you're at right now. And then let's look at it. Does it still serve you? If not, let's shift from it right? Even somebody with an ailment, we don't go in to heal anybody. You're going in to have them tune in to whatever reason that they've created that experience. Does it still serve you? Do you still have to label it? Do you still have to identify with it? Does it serve you in a way where, you know, if I keep it, I'm exempt to certain things or whatever? You come to that realization. If it doesn't serve, that's bring in the energies that will realign so that whatever you have with you disappears. Yeah. It's no longer in existence because it's really a holographic projection anyway. So it just shifts in energy.
So in other words, needing to be healed and even forgiveness to self or others is an oxymoron.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And what I say, we may have said it in the last episodes, I don't know. But in essence, you know, the thing about forgiveness, it's not very powerful. You know, I know that that's propagated a lot in a sense, but in essence, if we really look at it, what are we forgiving? Yeah. You know, because the forgiveness, the collective perspective of forgiveness, somebody did something wrong and you're the bigger person to forgive them, to let them go, right? But in essence, the true, when you look at it from the essence of who you are, no one could ever do anything to you unless you asked them to, even though you're not aware of it. However, so with what you do, if you want to break free from being in a state of victim, you go up to the person that's played the victimizer role, you give them a hug, even if you have to do it just remotely from, you know, from a third eye perspective. You go up to them and say, thank you. Thank you. I love you for the beautiful role that you played. It was stellar. I could not have experienced what I've experienced if you did not play this role. Yeah. And that is so empowering. And what happens is whatever cords you have attached, all the animosities and the energies that you've carried all this time, feeling that you're damaged good because somebody played a particular role, dissolves because in essence, there's no more power given to it. And it's not the other person, it's you. Yeah. Okay. So in essence, you want to get one step forward and a baby step forward, forgive somebody. You want to take a leap, thank them, send them love for the role, and then free them as you free yourself. And that's it.
I'm with that, man. I like that. That's in the Soulology unwritten, you know, doctrine. Yeah.
And the same thing with the healing. When I say to people, there's nothing to heal, no emotions, nothing. Yeah. You look at it for what it is, okay? Yeah. You just had an experience, and now you're ready to shift it. Because when I go to, and this is from my own practice and working with people, if I went to somebody and says, oh, let's heal this wound of yours, it takes much more energy, and the process is not only slower, but it may not be permanent. Okay. But if I step into somebody and somebody says, I'm wounded and I need to heal this, and I go, what are we healing? And we look at it and we say, oh, you had an awesome experience. Awesome. What do you want to change about it? What did you want to shift about it? Well, I don't want to give it any more power. Great. Let's release the power of it.
Let it go. Let it go just as you let go that you're Jesus' son or Kuan Yin in a past life, or let it all go.
Absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit before we go about the work you do. If you have any events coming up, a couple of people have made comments here. I know other people that have participated in what you do. And the reason I'm saying this is because of your frequency, because of where you're coming from, where you come from a place that forgiveness and healing don't even exist in the dictionary. And you're very conscious and have been for a long time about what you're doing and why you're here. So do you have any events coming up?
Yes. We have one big event coming up. It's a retreat, and it's a 7-day full intensive retreat. And it's basically self-discovery. It's stepping out of the 3D world, connecting with who you are, and recreating your reality accordingly. It's a full immersion, and it's very powerful, transforming. It's a life changer for people because it actually puts everything in perspective. It helps you really meet yourself. This is the thing. People forget who they are. So the whole thing is, how how would you like to meet your true essence, who you truly are? And then once you meet it, start to shape your reality accordingly, to be able to look at your world and have the capacity. And all we're doing is reactivating that within you, because we're doing it together, to be able to really see that you actually are designing your life and be able to plug it in and not work on wants, but work in what best serves, and taking the whole in perspective and saying, I'm going to be the highest version of myself, and I'm going to utilize the consciousness that I have. So the connection with themselves, the connection in their essence, how they create, how they experience life and so forth, is all what that whole retreat is about. And the reason it's 7 days, because it takes that much time of integration and different levels of exposures, not only energetically, but levels of consciousness, processes, and also interactive. Yeah. And it's all, yes, it's done in Ontario. It's done fairly inexpensive too. So in essence, compared to what others would charge for something that is less than, because anybody that's ever come to any of my retreats or workshop, they get way more than they even expected from it, because in essence, they get everything that they need for whatever they need to do. So that's coming up on the 28th of July. Go ahead.
20th of July. Okay. And we can all attest to the fact that we've gone on 7-day vacations and come back, you know, the old saying, whatever happens in Vegas, leave it in Vegas, and all the traumas and shadows that we bring back with us or try to ignore. But no, it's a great, fantastic, excellent.
Yeah. And the thing is, this 7 day, when you come back, you bring every part of it, and you notice that everything around you changes. The people are different. Your way of looking at the world is different. The way you create is different. The baggage you may have carried, because this is part of it, is letting go a lot of the stuff that we've identified with as traumas or stories or, you know, old shadows or whatever, like people like to call it. You come back so much lighter. You come back and it's like, wow, look, I now can play with whatever I need to play with, and I can do it with ease.
And so how can people access it? How can people access it?
Yes. So the link to all the information, I think it's provided, but you can get it on my website. You can get it on my Facebook, but you can also, I think you posted it already, even in the promotion that you did for them to come on the call. Right. And it might even be under your description in the call when they go and watch it again. So that has a link to Eventbrite where it's all posted. It tells you exactly all the details, what we're doing, what the costs are, what's involved. It's full integration. So in essence, so you show up there, the accommodations provided, the food's provided. You really just show up and you go through the experience. And it's beautiful nature because it's on a 100 or 200 acre property with running brooks. And of course, we stage, we first clean out the property, we raise the vibration of the property. The people come in there, the first night that I work with them, I raise everybody's vibration. We go through clearing out any baggage they've carried, at least enough to be able to really be present in the experience. So that's all done. And the whole description is in the link that is provided. Yeah, whatever, if you feel called upon to be there and you're really ready, you know, my question is, are you ready to shift your life? Then that's the place you need to be.
Right on. And we can totally advocate that here at Soulspeaks. We hope to collaborate in some way, some form or fashion with Franco in the future. I just want to say a big thank you to Franco. I really look forward to our next conversation. I'm not being presumptuous. If it resonates with you, we'd love to continue this format. And also want to say on behalf of Franco and I don't have to ask him, a big shout out to Tio Guadalupe in Sedona, Arizona, for bringing us together and doing everything she does behind the scenes. We're still trying to talk her to get coming on camera with us. But,
yes, and we'll have to convince her, even if we did it together, like three of us at first, and then, because she has a lot to offer. And in fact, she's in Hawaii right now. I think she's in Kauai or someplace.
She's coming this way. No, she's in Maui.
Maui right now? Okay.
She's coming this way. I said, when are you coming? She didn't answer. So I don't know what that means. She might wind up on our doorstep the next day or two.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And for me, Todd, whenever you want me back, it would be my absolute pleasure. I really enjoy your energy, the people that come together, and even having this open of a format, because we went a little deeper today than I normally get the opportunity to do so on people's shows and stuff like that. So thank you for hosting that and holding it. So anytime.
It's a pleasure. I'm honored, and I'm really honored to consider call you my friend because I really resonate with you. And on behalf of everybody, thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for the conversation. And by God, next time, let's go deeper.
Absolutely.
I'll see you later. Tell Kimberly hi.
I will. Thank you. Bye-bye.